In this video, we're going to discuss the quadratic formula, which is a formula for solving quadratic equations when other methods don't work. If you can solve by factoring or square root method or completing the square, those are better methods. They're more reliable. You're less likely to make a mistake. But when everything else fails, the quadratic formula is good because you can use it for anything. So we're looking at quadratic equations. Quadratic equations are in this form. Okay, so we've got a quadratic function. Remember, that means we've got an x squared in it. The coefficients are always a in front of the x squared, b in front of the x, and c as the constant by itself. Even if your equation is in a different order, the a, b, and c are always these coefficients. So you can either put it in the right order, or remember that a goes with x squared, b goes with x, and c is by itself. Now, to do the quadratic formula, you have to have the equation in this format. It's got to be everything on one side equal to 0. When you have it in that format, the quadratic formula is derived from completing the square, which is in another section, and I'm not going to subject it to you because it's horribly messy. But that's why the quadratic formula is so messy. You end up with negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, not just a little bit of it, all over 2a. So you use the coefficients, you use the a, the b, and the c, not the x's, just the a, the b, and the c. You plug them in here, and you get your solutions. It is messy. It is very easy to make a mistake, especially on the signs. But the quadratic formula is great because you can use it no matter what the numbers are, even if this doesn't factor, decimals, fractions, anything, and you can put it in the quadratic formula. So let's give this a shot. Let's say that we've got x squared plus x minus 5. All right, now we've looked at solving by factoring. You always want to check for easy factors first, because if it does factor, that's a much more reliable method. So we would need factors of 5. That would give us 1. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5, so we can't get a middle term of 1 from that. So it's not going to factor. It's not in the right form for square root method. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. We already have everything on one side. So the a is in front of the x squared, the b is in front of the x, and the c is the number by itself. If it's not in the right order, you might want to put it in the right order, but you can still get the a, the b, and the c as long as it's all on one side. So we're going to have x is equal to negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so you put your a, your b, and your c into the formula. You're going to be really careful and make sure that you take the signs with it. So we've got to make sure this is negative 5, put them all in the right place, and now you're going to simplify. And this is where you've got to be really careful, especially with your signs underneath the square root. So I've got negative 1 plus or minus. And underneath the square root, I've got 1 squared. 1 times 1 is 1. And then be careful with your signs here. I've got negative, negative. That's going to come out to positive. 4 times 1 times 5 would be 20. So I get positive 20 all over 2. And then I get negative 1 plus or minus. This is going to give me the square root of 21 over 2. Okay, so you plug everything in, you simplify down. Now here is where you're going to use all of your radical stuff and all of your rational stuff to see if this simplifies. Can I simplify this anymore? Can I do anything with square root of 21? Nope. 3 times 7, that doesn't reduce. Can I divide anything by 2? No. Remember, we'd either have to factor by 2 or we'd have to break it up over 2. Nothing's going to cancel out here, so that is my final answer. If you have to write it as separate solutions, you would do the plus version and you would do the minus version. The only thing that changes is this sign right here in the middle of it. Okay, so there's the plus version, there's the minus version. All right, let's try another one. let's say we've got 2x squared equals 3 plus 8x. Okay, so we're going to move everything to one side. So I'm going to do minus 3 minus 8x. So I'm going to have 2x squared. I'm going to have minus 3 minus 8x, but I'm going to go ahead and put this in the right order because I can put this in any order that I want. I'm going to do minus 8x and then minus 3. That way my a, my b, and my c are in the right order, and it's a little bit easier to see. So there's the a, there's the b, there's the c. And we're going to plug it into that formula. So we're going to have negative b, so it's going to give me negative 8 plus or minus b squared. Now, I've got to be careful here. I've got to make sure I square the whole thing, not just the 8. It's negative 8. I've got to square the whole thing. Minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And then we simplify. So negative 8 is going to be positive 8. Plus or minus, and this is the part you really have to be careful with here under the square root. I've got negative 8 squared. I'm squaring the whole thing. So negative 8 times negative 8 is going to give me positive 64. This part, I've got negative times negative is going to come out positive. And then 4 times 2 times 3 is 24. All over 4. All right, we're going to need a little bit more space here to simplify, so let's keep going. I'm going to get 8 plus or minus. 64 and 24 is going to give me 88 all over 4. Okay, so every problem should come down to something that looks like this, and then you have to decide, can I do more? Can I cancel the 8 and the 4? No, not exactly, because remember we can't cancel over addition or subtraction. So in order to reduce the 8 and the 4, I have to be able to reduce everything. So I can do 8 over 4, and I can do square root of 88 over 4. First, let's see if we can simplify the square root of 88, and we can. Definitely 4 goes into that. It'd be 4 times 22, so let's go ahead and do that. And the square root of 4 is the same as 2. Okay, and now we look to see if we can simplify by anything. All right, we can reduce all of this by, look at all of the numbers out front. I can reduce all of them by 2. I can reduce all of them by 2. So there's a couple different ways that you can think of this. You can think of it as reducing all of them by 2, or you can think of it as factoring 2 out and then canceling it with the bottom. What you cannot do is do like this, okay, because this is over addition and subtraction. So we've got to remember those fraction rules. All right, so we see that the 8, the 2, and the 4 can all reduce by 2. So if I factor a 2 out to the front on top, it's going to look like that. Now the 2 and the 4 I can cancel because now it's multiplication and division. So I can cancel those, and I'm left with a 2 on the bottom. So 4 plus or minus the square root of 22 over 2. Now, have we simplified completely? This is where it's a little bit hard. Have I simplified completely? I can't reduce the square root of 22 any more than I have. It's 2 times 11. Neither one of those will reduce. The 4 and the 2 look like maybe they would cancel, and it's tempting, but remember you have to be able to cancel with all of it. It's got to be something that you can factor out to the front. So I cannot do anything with the 4 and 2 because of the plus or minus. This is as simplified as it's going to get. Okay, I know it's tempting to go cancel happy here, but you've got to remember all those rules that we've been working on. All right, and that's the basic idea for quadratic formula. Be careful underneath the square root. If you get a number that's negative underneath the square root, just like we saw before, that's going to be no real solution, D and E. Okay, so if you get something like 3 plus or minus square root of negative 5 over 2, since we are solving these over the reals, that would be no real solution, or D and E. Okay, but otherwise you're just going to plug in the A, the B, and the C, and you're going to be really careful on your order of operations and your signs. That's the key to all of this.